Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. Today, let's go over the market. Tesla had its earnings, of course, yesterday, so we'll go over everything. I didn't make a video yesterday because I honestly wasn't feeling that well, and also was just paying attention to Tesla's earnings. And I was, waiting for like the results, right after market close, etc., etc. So, and I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, Tesla did literally nothing yesterday. It went pretty much sideways the whole day, so there was really nothing really to say, other than the fact that I guess if there is one thing that could potentially make Tesla fall out of this potential bull area here that we were in, it's earnings. Fortunately, that was the case. So, intraday, as you can see, I did have this little wedge drawn that we were going up initially that I patiently, thankfully, waited for. I actually did exit some bullish positions I had, the sold puts up here that were like, I had sold puts for like 210, 205, and 200 that I exited on this way up here. So that's good. And the reason I did that is because, not because I don't think this is a great price. I did that because I want to make sure I get some shares in this area. Let's just say that, right? So that's what I did. I actually bought shares on my both accounts. 200 shares on my main one, 50 shares on my smaller one, just to start accumulating in this area, just in case, because I personally think this range is fantastic. I'm perfectly okay buying in this range, and if it goes any lower, I have more to buy, right? But I want to get at least something in this range just to make sure. Anyway, Tesla ending the day down to $200.07, $207.21, which is down 6.68%. Now, earnings, of course, was yesterday. It wasn't as, I thought it was fine. I personally thought it was fine. It wasn't like as, extravagant as maybe some people expected it to be. I thought it was fine given the circumstances, and the earnings call itself, I thought was spectacular. I was extremely bullish to the point where I just want to buy some shares today, man. I don't know. It was such a great earnings call. I was very, very happy with it. Very, very bullish earnings call overall. So, I like it, man. I like it. Now, again, just because I bought doesn't mean I think the bottom is in. It's time to rock it, maybe. But, I'm buying it in the sense that, again, full disclosure, all right, I do have underwater shares that we'll be buying this Friday up here, pretty much in this range, unfortunately, because those were sold puts. I sold that when we were still like all the way up here. And unfortunately, they are under the water, so I am going to be buying a bunch of shares pretty much roughly in this range right here. It is what it is. It sucks a little bit, but sometimes it'd be like that. So that's why I want to buy shares here. And if we do fall any lower, which, there is a possibility, I will buy even more, right? That's just kind of how it goes. But let's talk about what we can expect moving forward. So as you can see, Tesla did come down to this level, but it actually didn't re-enter. It didn't actually really re-enter this wedge, which is a good start. I do like the fact that, I don't know why this is so short. I do like the fact that it actually did not re-enter this little wedge that we were in, right? It did bounce off of it and it held above it, which is a good sign so far. So we'll see how that actually presents itself. Now, the most important thing that I'm personally noticing, finally, remember how I talked about how ideally what I want to see ultimately at some point is Tesla to make a lower low? With RSI to start making higher lows, especially on the daily. That is exactly what we got today, right? Tesla ultimately did make a lower low, and even if you want to argue that the daily RSI, I'm pretty sure actually bases it off the closure of the candle. So in this case, the daily did close higher than this low, of course. However, even though it closed higher than this candle, it's pretty damn close, right? Like it's 207 versus 205, like that's 2 points off, but the RSI is meaningfully higher than what that close was. To me, that is fantastic news. Now, again, that does not mean this is the bottom. I still think there's a chance we actually potentially even touch 200. I think that's not out of the question. Even potentially as low as, I actually don't think we'll get to 185. I don't think we'll actually go that low, but I would not be surprised if we even potentially go to 195, maybe even tomorrow or Monday. That would not shock me whatsoever. However, the fact that we're finally setting up this bullish divergence on the daily, which is something I've personally been waiting for, makes me very, very excited. That to me is telling me that there should be a a significant, at least good enough rally, I guess, let's just say that, or, sentiment flip, I guess, like essentially like a nice rally, a nice turn of events coming soon, like soon. Again, doesn't mean it has to be tomorrow, but this is the start of what I personally like to see on the daily. Most importantly, on the daily. Again, the longer the time frame, the more like significant, I guess, something is, which in this case is a bullish divergence. So because it's happening on a daily, at least it's starting to, as long as we don't mess it up and as long as we don't make a lower low on the daily, which would pretty much mean that Tesla would have to completely crash from here on forward. Maybe 185 would make a lower low. I'm not really sure. It's hard to say for sure. Maybe it won't. But the point is that if we go even lower to 200 or even 195, and then maybe even as bad as like somewhere in the 180s, and we still don't make a lower low on the RSI, man, that is freaking bullish, man. That is something I would love to see. So we'll see what happens. A lot of volume today on this red, but the bulls and the bears did definitely fight it off today, right? A pretty decent looking candle. Unfortunately, it's not, again, as close to the close was not as close to the open as I would like to see, because that would have been again a sign of a reversal. Same thing that we had over here, and same thing that we had over here and over here. But again, it's just not close enough, so I don't put too much weight onto that. So it is what it is. But again, ultimately, as someone that overall is planning to hold Tesla long term, just I'm not doing it right now just yet, because again, I still think we're in this bear market. I'm trying to just swing it for now until I think the bear market is closer to a bottom. Ultimately, as someone that is going to be, or is, I guess, I see myself as a long term investor, the earnings call is fantastic. I loved it, man. I thought it was great. I really do. Anyway, all that being said and done, so let's talk about the major things that we care about, right? Of course, the 21 EMA is still well below that. We're still well below the majority of things. We haven't even remotely come close. I mean, I guess we came kind of close, but still pretty far off from the white line of the Bollinger Band, right? Then we have the 50 moving average, which actually is all the way up there. The 200 moving average is all the way up there. So we are definitely, we're pretty low, man. We are pretty low. We did get rejected by the shorter moving averages, which we just can't really stay above it, unfortunately, which is kind of sucks, which tells me that there might be a bit more weakness coming. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me if we maybe even touch 200, and again, maybe even 195. That's my current guess right now, but we'll see. But that, that's not good, right? That's not good that we can't stay above those bad boys, right? We kind of went above it a little bit, but we couldn't maintain that, which is not great, which is why we also maybe had this massive fall off, unfortunately. But again, this was earnings, right? Sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes with earnings, they can completely destroy a structure, or maybe even change the structure of how it looks, because it's just that significant of an event. But nonetheless, I'm personally, I'm not faltered. I'm not scared. I'm not screaming or whatever. I personally just view these, again, not financial advice. I personally view these as buying opportunities, and if it goes to 200, I'll buy more. If it goes to 195, I'll buy more. If it goes to 185, before the meaningful bounce I'm talking about even begins, I will buy more, right? So I personally do not mind. Now, the reason I personally think the market has potentially a chance to fall a little bit lower is because the SPY, or at least let's do the SPX, because I have it. Actually, we'll do SPY. It's because the SPY is looking to make a higher low here, in my opinion. But I would say that there is still more room to the downside before the higher low is solidified. So if you draw the Fibonacci, you can see currently it is bouncing the 0.382, but I personally would expect it to come down to at least the 0.5, if not as low as the 0.618, maybe even. And the worst case would be this 354 at 0.786, right? So I personally think the SPY still has a little bit more room to the downside potentially to really get the bounce. My main target would be anywhere between 0.5 to the 0.618, which essentially means about 360 to 357-ish on the SPY, something like that, give or take. Which, of course, if that happens to the SPY, there is a chance that Tesla also drops a little bit lower. However, with that being said and done, you can also take a note the fact that the SPY right now in the market as a whole is actually sitting pretty much around the June lows right now, if not maybe even slightly higher. The SPY is slightly higher. The QQQ, which is essentially the tech version of SPY, if you will, is pretty much right at the June lows. However, Tesla is actually lower than the June lows, right? Not like a crazy amount lower, but it's it's at or lower the June lows, which is good in my opinion, because that means Tesla is showing a little bit more weakness, which I personally like because I get to buy better shares, so I don't really mind. I'm happy with it, whatever. But the one thing that also contradicts the scenario of potentially making a little bit of a lower low, not a lower low, but going a little bit lower with the market and Tesla itself, very short term, like maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, is the fact that you can see as the market was ultimately red today, the VIX was actually down 2.5%. Now, like I always said before, whenever the VIX follows the market, so in this case, if the market's red and VIX is red, or if the market's green and VIX is green, that to me is usually a kind of like a contrary indicator, I guess, where that to me tells me that the flip should happen relatively soon. So, which is why I'm also kind of thinking that, even though if we maybe get a bit more red, the fact that the VIX is red on a red day for the market is suspicious. I've said this before. I think the last time I said this was only like a few days ago, when I think the market was green and VIX was green or something like that. I can't remember for sure. But usually when the VIX follows the market, that's a little bit suspicious, because if the market's red, the VIX usually should be green, and the vice versa. If the market's green, the VIX should be red. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your positions, the VIX was red with the market being red. So to me, again, that tells me that, it's a little bit suspicious. It tells me that the market might actually get a bit of a breather here, might actually get a bit of a rally here. So we'll see what happens with that. Someone that I personally follow, that whose opinion I value, Ashley on Twitter, does say the fact that he believes something like this will play out for the market, which essentially says that the market will come down. This is SPX, by the way, not SPY. It's pretty much the same thing, but the measurement's a little bit different. But he pretty much is thinking that the SPY or the SPX will come down to 3630, and the worst case scenario would be 350, which pretty much means SPY around 352 to like 365, anywhere in that range, which we're not that far from at the very moment, right? So that's just something else to consider. So we'll see what happens with that. But that is currently what I am seeing at the very moment, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow, of course, will be the final day. We'll see where that takes us. But as we go and go ahead and take a look at the shorter time frames, that you can see, also paying attention to the RSI, you can see the divergence is starting to really show, right? We have the RSI making higher lows, significantly higher lows, which is fantastic, pretty much on every meaningful time frame. Right, as Tesla is heading lower, you can see it's kind of slowly starting to head higher. Right, as it gets shorter time frames, it becomes a little bit different because these are projecting out like maybe the next like day or two or something like that, while these ones right here are projecting out a potential actual reversal or like a trend change, right? So if you look at like the 15-minute, let's say for instance, you can see it's a little bit more messy, but it's kind of just following the market a bit more strict, as opposed to showing any real sign of divergence. So I personally don't really see anything here that is worth pointing out, but that's fine because again, we see the bullish divergences on the longer time frames, which again to me tells me that the trend should be hopefully changing pretty damn soon once these bad boys actually finally play out. So I'm excited, guys. I do think I'm excited. That actually fits what I just showed you, the projection of the other person that I also, whose opinion I regard, fairly highly. He also thinks that the market has a bit more lower to go before an actual, healthy bounce to give us a bit of a, nice little recovery, a bit of a relief before ultimately making an actual lower low, unfortunately, for the market and most likely Tesla as well, which is where I would personally see Tesla come down at the very least to 185, if not all the way down to 150. But we'll see, of course, when the time comes. And what causes that to happen, if it even does. But nonetheless, guys, that is essentially what I am seeing at the very moment. It seems like Google reported earnings and is down, or maybe it's down because of Facebook. Actually, I'm assuming Facebook reported earnings is down 4.2%. Man, this stock just cannot catch a break. Wait, they're not reporting earnings. Someone reported earnings and someone is bringing the market down. I'm not really sure. Maybe Shopify? No, someone reported. Wow. Snap, that's what reported earnings. Snap reported earnings is down 17%. Jesus Christ, that is really high. Wow, that's bad. But thankfully Tesla doesn't really care, it seems like, but some other similar things are carrying, like Facebook. Pretty much anything that heavily relies on advertisements is getting wrecked in after hours right now, which is why Facebook is down, which is why Google is down, because they're very reliant on advertisement. And most likely Snap said something bad about advertisement money spending and whatnot, so that's why they are down. But Tesla, of course, doesn't really rely on advertisements, so it doesn't really care. However, it can still affect the market, which can, of course, unfortunately affect Tesla a little bit here as well. But either way, that's what I'm seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.